when you already know the guy,
Yeah.
it's always hard when you don't know the person.
Hey, this is Troy Taylor from the Championship Football Coaches Clinic podcast, sponsored by Reps Virtual Reality, First Down Playbook, Rack Coach, Tip of the Spear, the Top Hopper, Sports Workbook, Next Pick, and thank you to Sideline Sports Network for streaming us. I got Coach Marion on today, and I met Coach when he was the offensive coordinator at William and Mary. And he allowed me and my offensive coordinator, Shane Reynolds, to come down and spend some time with him. But he's a guy that I've been following his career for a long time. And, Coach, for the guys that don't know, that may be watching or will watch, tell us a little bit about yourself, Coach, and where you're from.
Well, first off, Troy, I appreciate you for having me on. I remember you guys coming by and just talking ball, and you're a legend yourself.
No,
NBA.
I'm the low man on the totem pole, man.
No,
Yeah,
you've helped a ton of kids, live their dreams. So, I'm blessed here at UNLV. Coach Odom gave me a great opportunity to get back in the saddle and call plays again, and be the offensive coordinator. So it's been a blessing. The guys are working hard right now in summer ball and getting that rolling. Got a great offensive staff that's helped me put the plan together, and hopefully we can put together some good stuff this season that people will be proud of in Vegas. But, for me, football started back in, I was born in Hampton, Virginia, Langley Air Force Base. My dad was stationed there in the military, but my family's from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So I really grew up my whole life since I was a year old. I was in Pittsburgh growing up until I graduated high school. And, I just remember, I always tell people that I told the players the story today about how, back then in Little League football was, $25 to sign up for football. I'm an August child, so my birthday's at the end of August. So I was always the youngest kid on the team. I graduated high school at 17. I was always younger than everybody in my class. And, football signups that came up, I had been playing football with my older brother and my uncle, and they've been beating me up in the backyard, and I was able to keep up with their friends. They're 6 years older than me, and they were like, man, they're telling everybody, like, man, he's a football player. My mom's like, he's too small. He can't play ball. He's too small. He's going to get hurt. My older brother was like, no, I'm telling you, like, he's good. Like, you need to give him a chance to play. He's good. And, we grew up Section 8, so we didn't have much. And my mom, was like, if I give you this $25, like, this is going to set us back. We're going to be broke. Like, we're not going to be able to pay something, and then she was like, I ain't doing it. So the next day she comes in, she throws the $25 at my brother, like, he better be good. And, the first game, I remember all the plays, right? Like, I got a photographic memory like that. But first play, Pitcairn Field out there in Monroeville, PA, get a 28 sweep, take it to the house, and I look at my mom like, and in my head, in the 6-year-old version of me, I'm looking at her like, yeah, I'm a football player. Like, you better, And, scored 5 touchdowns the first game. And then, I was like, all right, you trust me now that I'm a football player, and ever since then, it's just always been, football's always kind of been my deal. I've known since a young age that I wanted to make an impact in football. I thought it'd be as a player longer, but it didn't happen that way, and got straight into coaching when I got hurt in the NFL, got right into coaching. And the first day that I coached, when I went out on the field, I knew that was it for me. Like, when you just like find your deal, like the kids were like, coach, show me this, show me that, like they were so hungry and eager to learn. And at the time I was just like so depressed on, my career not going the way that I wanted to go, having multiple ACL surgeries back to back, and, losing my what I felt my shot was, by getting injured, So when those kids were looking at me and they were believing in me and they were like hungry for me to teach them, I knew like, man, I could really do this. And then to see like guys get better and go on off to college, and had kids living with me and helping them, and, just trying to do everything I could to help those kids have a better life. And, that's kind of always been in my DNA from my grandmother and my mother. We took kids in. My mom was a social worker. My grandmother ran the church, and we used to take kids in. Like, I had it rough but there was kids that had it rougher. Like I say that my life was hard, but there's kids down the street who had life a little bit harder, and they would come stay with us. And I remember like I had a friend that they were like in a group home, and me and my mom tried to adopt them, and we kept them there until like the police were like, all right, you can't be here anymore. And we didn't have much. I mean, we were on food stamps and trying to make it, barely survive. But, we had enough we always tried to give back and help people. And I think that's, ultimately what's drawn me to coaching, that opportunity to help people, better their lives and better their situations and help their families out.
It's a great story about, Mike London seeing you, bring your 7-on-7 team to UVA when he was the head coach. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Coach London, I mean, I'm always indebted to Coach London for the opportunity that he gave me. He's a great man, great father, great football coach, tremendously passionate about the game. And I think that's what he saw in me when he saw me as a young, hungry coach. I was a high school head coach in Waynesboro, Pennsylvania. Me and Coach London's son, Brandon London, we played on the Dolphins together. And when I became a high school head coach, Waynesboro, Pennsylvania is about 2.5 hours from UVA when he was the head coach at UVA there. They were having a 7-on-7 tournament. The team that I took over at Waynesboro was 0-10. So I didn't think that they would even let us in the year, like the year before I got the job, they were 0-10. So I'm thinking like, they're not even going to let us in this tournament, but I'll ask. So I reached out to Brandon. I'm like, man, like I'm going to ask your dad, can I get into a 7-on-7 tournament? There's like real teams there. It's like DeMatha, Gonzaga,
Oh, yeah.
Like
yeah,
real squads. You know what I'm saying? So I'm thinking like, man, there's no way he's letting our team in there. And he let our team in there. He gave us an opportunity to compete. And, my team, the little farm boys who weren't really good the year before, we went with the big dogs and we made plays and we were going up tempo and going fast. And I, was after the camp with Coach London, he was like, man, you're a hell of a young coach, and I sent him an email just thanking him, and he was like, man, I'm gonna hire you one day. And, he kept his word and made it happen. You know what? When a lot of other guys had the opportunity to hire me and said that they would, he actually did it. And so, I'm always, indebted to him for giving me a shot.
I was just looking at your resume and I had forgot that when y'all were at Howard, y'all had gone out there to UNLV and had the biggest upset of all time. And now you're there as the offensive coordinator. So, I mean, talk a little bit about that go-go offense and where it came from. And I mean, that was the first time you had called plays on the college level was against the team that you're coaching now. So it's almost surreal. It's like full circle.
Yeah, God has a sense of humor for sure.
Amen. I mean, when he created me, I mean, I laugh every day when I look in the mirror.
No doubt, no doubt. But no, I mean, just how the offense came about really was getting beat in the playoffs. Back-to-back years, I had been on teams where we were air raid, 10 personnel, throw the ball every play. Our run play was a bubble. Like if we were going to, it was a perimeter screen, like that was the run play. And really, I was like, okay, so I played for Gus Malzahn. We were a 2-back. He transformed the wing tee. And I was like, all right, I need to study some of this old football, like go back and study like some of this run game stuff, because I played receiver. And, all I want to do was throw the ball, that was my thought process. Let's throw the ball, throw it all over the yard, have fun. But, when you really talk about like giving the kids a chance to win and being a great coach, like I was like, I have to master this run game and I have to get in the O-line room and I have to know exactly the ins and outs and nuances of the run game. So I just started studying football and going back in time and just seeing, 2 backs, 20 personnel, 21 personnel, and how do I create these option elements and make every run still be a new school run and still add RPO tags and run the triple option and do all these things, but not be, under center running split back veer. I wanted to still be, a true West Coast passing game. I still wanted to have all the little perimeter screens and RPOs and air raid type deal. I wanted to kind of marry all those worlds together. And so when I was just studying and, I tell people all the time, I took like a quantum leap. So I went like 2 years straight where I did not sleep but more than like 3 or 4 hours a day, where I was just notebooks and notebooks and studying every possible thing that I could on football. The old football, like 1900 when football first started, like the Rutgers first game, all the way till present day time, and just trying to put all that together and combined it. And then that's kind of how I came up with the offense. It was, people think it's something new, but it's really not. It's really something old done in a new way. Like the two back side by side, that's just far and near formation. That was under center back in the day. The split back veer type stuff, and we just do it in shotgun, and we actually run a real offense out of it. It's not just student body right or student body left or dive. It's an actual full menu of runs, full menu of passes, and then you have all the other formations and gadgets and going up tempo and doing all those elements put together, and that's what created kind of what people call the go-go offense.
So did the guys who were at UNLV at the time, did they have any idea, what they were getting ready for? I mean, did they have a spring game to check you out, or, I mean, how do you even know what were they ready for?
Yeah, I think the one thing that I don't think that they were prepared for necessarily what we would do. I mean, I don't even think that they really, to be honest, if you're a coach and you're looking at, like the two places that I coordinated offense at the FCS level, Howard, nobody even knew Howard had a football team. I mean, not a lot of people knew that Howard was, had a football presence. And then, at William & Mary, when I took them over, they were the last ranked offense in FCS. I think they averaged like 10 to 11 points a game or something. So, when you look at that and you're playing a team in first game and you're an FBS team, you're probably thinking like, man, these guys don't even, like, it doesn't matter what they run, we
should beat them.
Yeah. So I don't know if it was so per se, like they were trying to figure out, I don't think they did a lot of research on what we were trying to do. And for me, example, like you worried about a guy who's only, I GA'd 1 year, coached D2. I was a high school head coach, like it wasn't like I was like an NFL coordinator who, got fired and just did college for a couple of years of fun, like I was some up and comer that they didn't really know about. So, I just think, now what that game always does for me is it makes me prepare for every opponent and treat every person like they are, like we're going to suit up and play the Steelers or the Cowboys or, like every single team that we play, I'm trying to treat them like they're the best team in the world,
And I talked to Chan Gailey today, and he told me that he said week 3 is just as important as week 9, just as important as the big game. And when you don't think it is, that's when you get, surprised. So, you went from Howard to William & Mary with Coach London. And then, we talked about Coach London, but you got the opportunity to go out to Hawaii right next to be the wide receiver coach.
Yes.
And how did that all go down? I mean, because you went from, going to Division I FBS from being a coordinator on FCS.
Yeah, I think that, people, if you look at my resume, it shows that I've made a lot of stops and jumped around. But the thing that I always tell people is like loyalty to me is being able to cross the same bridge twice. So I was with London for 3 years, 2 different stops, and I was with Todd Graham as a player, and then I GA'd for him. And then when he went to Hawaii, I went there with him to Hawaii. So 3 different places, right? If you're a good person of value and you have relationships and people feel like, okay, this guy's a good dude, I'm going to bring him here with me. And, you're one of those first calls. You're one of those people who get an opportunity to go there. So, I've just been blessed with, being a person of value, and people have given me a shot. But, so Coach Graham, when he got the Hawaii job, he just said, you want to come out here? This is your opportunity to get FBS and be a full-time coach and build your resume and come out here and serve these kids and, try to build this program with me. So that's how I ultimately got out to Hawaii.
Yeah, not a bad place to go, I guess. I don't know. I've never been there.
During the COVID year too, like it was tough. Like I'd never, football that year really, that year should have taught coaches a lot of things as far as like, football is always like you got to be all in 7 days a week. Every single second of the day has got to be, your mind is just trained to be on football every second. With COVID,
Mm-hmm.
all the breaks in the action, especially on the island. I mean, we had kids like, it was hard to fly there, travel there because they had all these different protocols. It was hard to practice because, like they had different protocols where they didn't want us to practice, and we were still able to go to a bowl game and win. And I was just like, wow, like that was the least amount of work I've ever done in a football season from the standpoint of, you're just a grinder. You put your head down and you're always working. With COVID, we couldn't be that way. That was not the way you could do it. It was like it opened my eyes to something different, not the typical way, right? So it was a new way of kind of doing it. And, getting ultimately to my family to get to experience being out in Hawaii and being on the island. And, it's crazy. I never thought that, I always say, thank God for the ball that saved my life. I never thought that football would take me all the places that it has.
Amen. But I mean, you leave Hawaii and you get the chance to go back home to Pittsburgh. I mean, there's a pretty good quarterback and a pretty good receiver out there at Pittsburgh. I think you replaced Coach Beatty as the receiver coach, and I'm pretty sure you were close with Coach Beatty. So talk a little bit about that, how you ended up going to Pittsburgh, and did you talk to Coach Beatty before taking that job?
No, I didn't really have a relationship with Coach Beatty. The one thing with Coach Beatty, I mean, he set up that room. I mean, that room was stacked, loaded with guys. They were just young, so I had the task of, just trying to merge. I think one of my best skills is merging people together, because I've lived so many different places and able to communicate with people. When I interviewed for that job, I basically just promised Kenny and Jordan Addison, like, hey, we're going to have a great year. Kenny, like, help me, because Kenny was really working it on the back end, trying to help me get in there and get the job, So, I just kind of promised Kenny, like, man, I promise you these receivers will be right. They'll be in the right spots. They'll do what you need. And, and Kenny was just such a solid guy. I mean, I could text Kenny right now and he'll text me back in 5 minutes, within 5 minutes. I could call him right now. I could ask him, hey, can you help me with these quarterbacks? And he'll do it, So just a great group of guys to be around. Coach Nardizzi gave me an opportunity. Mark Whipple was great to me from the standpoint that he was hard on me and he expected me to be perfect every day with those guys and lead them. And that helped me develop as a coach, being around those guys. And, ultimately the stuff that we did that year, when you look back at it, you're always put in these adverse situations and what do you do with them? That's how you rise. People notice no matter where you're at, if you can take an adverse situation and kind of flip it around. And so, on the back end now, everybody's like, Kenny's first round pick, Jordan's first round pick, you have all these guys. But at the time when I took the job, it wasn't like, everybody just knew for sure everybody was being drafted first round or we would win the ACC or, I remember we lost to Western Michigan that season and they were acting like fire the coach, like it was like this, it's over, so I just think that, God has placed me in some great opportunities with some great players. And obviously like Jordan, I went to the draft. He invited me to the draft with him and his family. And, I'm just proud of that kid because, like through all the stuff that he kind of went through and all those transitions and all that, the kid stayed focused on the ball. And he's a ball guy. Like that kid would catch jugs at 10 at night, 150, 200. While guys were going out and partying, he was catching the jugs. I remember when Coach Narduzzi said, hey, Jordan, you're up for the Blendikoff. He said, thanks, Coach. And we watched every DB each week that we would play. We watched all their PFFs. We'd watch every single play that each DB had that we played each week, each corner, each safety, each nickel. We watched it all every week. Like he did all those little things. He'd go to the quarterback meetings, and a guy who gets that, like you can't hate on a guy who did it the hard way, like put all the work in and didn't believe in his talent. He could have said, I'm talented and just barely got by, like most guys do that are talented. But he didn't believe that he was talented. He worked his ass off. And, ultimately, when you get drafted first round, what can anybody say to you? I mean, you put the work in.
I don't know.
And not to be, not when it wasn't like he was 6'3", 200 pounds and ran 4.4. I mean, he's my size. He's 5'11", 6 foot, 165, 170 pounds, and ran 4.5. I mean, he's more like us than, he's more like the average athlete than people think. I mean, you know what I mean? As far as
he's just a heck of a football player.
Yeah.
I mean, that bowl game, I was a believer.
Yeah.
When y'all played in that bowl game, at Pitt, I was like, okay, yeah, this guy can go.
Yeah.
And then Kenny, just I want to say something about him. Shane Reynolds that came down there with me to William and Mary, he was a student assistant at ODU. And Kenny Pickett and his dad used to go down to, the quarterback camps at ODU every year. And he was down there like as a sixth grader. And Shane was like, we need to offer this kid right now. So that was like a pretty cool moment. Like, because Kenny put that work in, man.
He's one of the best leaders I've been around. I mean, like Kenny, he just leads. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's just one of those guys you look at and you get confidence. Like, this dude, there's just something about him. Like, like he's got you. You know what I mean? Like, you could write your check on it. Like, all right, yeah, we're good. This guy's gonna fight to win. Like the guys all believed into. You know what I mean? Like, he just had that it factor. You know what I mean? Like, you just knew he had it.
So you do a great job at Pitt, and then who do you get a call from? Is it Coach Sark? Who calls you about going to Texas?
Yeah, so it really was Coach Sark and Xavier Worthy. He's a kid I knew since he was in high school. Great kid from Fresno. I mean, he'll probably be a first or second round draft pick, after this season, receiver at Texas. And, Coach Sark, I didn't know Coach Sark at all, and both of those guys called me. And when I saw like I wasn't going to get the OC opportunity at Pitt, it was just like, all right, what do we do next? Because it's kind of like, I was kind of like, I earned it. You feel like you earned something and you put in the work to get it, and you don't. And, instead of having, some people will stay in a bad relationship or bad situation as far as like, I'm going to wish the person well and move forward and be positive. That's the only way I choose to be. So just wish Coach well, and, Texas opportunity worked out. And, Coach Sark just did a good job of just, like all the other guys that were, like you as a coach, you start to get recruited, as you do well in coaching. It's like people want to get to know you. People want to see, like, can they hire you? And everybody wants you to kind of do things on their terms. But Coach Sark, I'm like, it's been a long season. It was like the end of the season at Pitt. It's been a long season. We had the championship run, whatever. Like, as soon as this season's over, I'm just going to go hang with my kids in California. Like, I'm not doing the whole interview circuit, fly here, fly there. And he was like, well, where are you at? I'll come to you.
Yeah.
And that's why Coach Sark is one of the best recruiters that there's ever been in college football. I mean, the dude is a real dude when it comes to, if he says something, he gets it done. So he did that and got it done. And it showed me, like, he's serious. These other guys are like, fly here, da-da-da. I said, I told you it's been a long season. I'm going to go see my kids. And he understood that. Where other guys were like, fly here if you want the job. And I'm like, if you don't know that I'm a good coach by now, like,
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
So he flew out to see you and you took the job. And was that his first year at Texas or his second year?
It was going into his second season.
So, I mean, I followed his career. He was a quarterback at BYU, and then, he was a coordinator at SC, and he was head coach at SC, head coach at Washington. He was one of the guys that went to Coach Saban and, I don't know, got, rejuvenated or whatever. And, I mean, what do you think Coach Sark learned from studying under Coach Saban? I know I don't want you to speak for him, but maybe something you can share with the guys, Brennan. And we got Nick Garrett. Nick Garrett's going to join us. He's a big fan of yours, Coach.
There it is. That's right.
Yeah.
From Sark, the biggest thing that I think that he learned from Coach Saban was just the structure of running a program. I think everybody tries to emulate and be like Coach Saban from the standpoint of how he runs things, how he runs his organization. Because ultimately he's done it better than anybody's has done it, in recent history. So the structure of how we ran things at Texas, how we developed players, how we recruited players, it was just different. I mean, different than anywhere that I've been. And
How was it different?
just like, for example, in practice, like there's no like standing around. There's no, like, everybody is doing something. Like, it's a two-spotted practice. And, from the standpoint of like, you're a varsity head, when I was a varsity head coach, we had the JV program going at the same time that the varsity went, and it's really that structure. Like, there'd be like 4 practices going on. If you came to our practice, you're like, what the heck is going on? You got guys everywhere, like just everywhere working. There's not like like a group back here and we're reading the script and we're slow out of the huddle. And, like the NFL model of, taking it slow and making sure, do it, reload the play. It's like, no, we're rolling and everybody's getting reps. Like, we can't talk them into being good players. Like, they have to actually work and get the work done. Like, there's no wasted time. Like, there's a rhyme and reason why we're doing everything, and that was one of the things that I took away. Like, that was different for me. That was uncomfortable because as a college coach, I've done that as a high school head coach, standing there observing, and my other coaches were coaching one side, coaching JV, coaching freshman team, and I'm down here with the varsity, and you see it kind of going on. But it's different when you're a position coach or a coordinator in college and you haven't used that model. You know what I'm saying? And now you're seeing it go on and you're trying to track your guys and you're trying to make sure they're right. You know what I mean? And
But I'm just trying to like envision it in my head as a college perspective. I mean, is there like a wide receiver coach and then another wide receiver coach for the young guys?
Yes, exactly. So
it's like a JV team. You basically have it.
Yeah. And really, that was the first coach that I'd been with in college that had ran practice like that. And that was a Nick Saban, the guys from the Nick Saban tree. So if you went to Georgia practice, if you went to, guys who have sprinkled out from his tree, that's how they're running practice, which is completely different from the majority of college teams practicing.
Yeah, I mean, it's that old school. I mean, like Bear Bryant, back in the day, I think they could have unlimited number of players. So you got like multiple teams, and I guess everybody's getting reps, and not everybody's on the same level. Some people are learning what's going to go in for the game plan, and then the other guys are probably just learning the basic installs, or maybe they are even learning the other team's stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, it was at first it was like, ooh, this is a lot. And then after a while, if you start to see it and you see the guys developing who are down there, and then they can move up and come up here because they've been working and they've been getting reps, not just watching another guy, like now you see, okay, this makes a lot of sense. This is good.
So if there's 100 kids in the program, how many kids are on the JV? Is there a certain number?
Yeah, for example, it'll be like ones and twos together, and then there might be a 3 field going, and then there might be a 4s and 5, 4s and like walk-ons field going on. You know what I mean? Like so there's like pods of practices going on. You know what I'm saying?
I want to see more of it. I mean, I'm just learning about this now. But man, I'm fascinated by it. I mean, you learn something every day, and man, it sounds good to me.
No doubt.
Guess people don't talk a lot about it. They always want to hear, what's the X's and O's, but it's the inner workings that make it go. It's just not the plays.
It's so much of it's hard for a coach who's only been at a certain program for a long time to kind of see how it goes on everywhere. But like taking the perspective that I took in football, like going from being in high school head coach, and going the backwards way. I went from high school head coach and then I GA'd. So as a high school head coach, I had 100 or so guys in my program, 9th grade, JV, varsity at Waynesboro. and, like running that organization all the way down to Little League. And then you go back into college and it's like, I've always kept this perspective. I see guys like complain, in college, as a position coach, I'm like, dude, you got like 18 guys, you know what I'm saying? And you're worried about like a whole community, like you're worried about like a whole community when you're high school head coach. And then you're like making sure the uniforms are washed and the like they eat every day. And like, how are we going to feed them? Who's going to feed them? How are we going to raise the money to feed them? Like who's going to line the fields? Who's going to, you know what I mean? Like you start to, anytime I start to complain, and I'm talking to myself too, anytime I start to complain, I think like, man, dude, you were freaking lining fields and washing uniforms. Like you're blessed. Like, you know what I mean? So,
amen.
You know what I mean? So that's kind of the perspective of always seeing like, man, you were a high school coach and you did start from the bottom, and, like don't get used to things being, like perfect and pristine. Like you got to get it out the mud sometimes.
Yeah, but it almost goes back to your mom and, her being a social worker and somebody down the street that's got it worse than y'all. I mean, it's almost the same thing. You're a college coach, but right down the street, there's a high school coach who makes $3,000 a year, and you have empathy for them.
I'll still never forget like the first year I coached football, right? I loved it. Like it was like the greatest joy of my life. I mean, it really changed my life. Coach Zuber at James Logan High School gave me a stipend for $500 for the season. I was like, Coach, you might as well just like, this is when I was still getting paid by the NFL, so I'm like, Coach, you might as well just keep this for the team. Like, this ain't going to even, like, you know what I'm saying? And I always put that in perspective. Like when people say, man, this guy comes from a bad program or bad coach, like, I mean, how much can a coach do when he's making, like you got to work another job. You got to, like there's a lot of sacrifices that go in that, trying to help kids at the high school level, middle school level, when you're getting that type of income. I mean, that's not even income. That's not, like that doesn't even, now, you go to the grocery store 2 times in a week and you spent $500, like that's.
Yeah. I mean, hey, Nick, if you want to come on, just hit your camera on. I guess you don't want to come on. You just want to watch, but I would like you to get on here and ask Coach some questions, man. Turn your mic on. So just turn your thing on and I'll add you back to the stream. So, I mean, the one thing that is your strength, and other people have told me this, Shark came on, Coach Shark, is like when you go to a job, I mean, you've coached in a lot of different places. You have to build relationships. You have your saying, and I've seen it all over your Twitter. One good year can change your life. So when you took over that job at UNLV, what's the first thing that you do with that room that you inherit with those players?
Yeah, I think aside from the, I've always just believed in like growing up fast and working a job young. I had my first job when I was like 10 years old.
Wow.
Selling flowers in nightclubs and
man, go ahead, dude. Go ahead.
And washing cars and
put it in the comments if you remember the guy selling the flowers at the clubs.
So I've always put it in perspective of like, there's like a respect thing that comes into play. Like I don't know you, for example, like me and you don't know each other. And the first thing I do is cuss you out, yell at you, or say something negative to you. And I don't know you. I'm looking at you sideways. Like there's no way we're going to, you know what I mean? No way we're going to ever build a relationship.
Yeah, hit your mic, Nick. Hit your mic. Your mic's on mute. There you go, buddy.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to be a fly on the wall, man.
You be in here with us, man.
Yeah, I hear you.
That's right. But, so I've always just had this, and when you move a lot, I moved around a lot as a kid, like people think when kids transfer all the time, I always ask kids, why do they transfer? Some kids transfer just because they want to go to a new school to play a sport. But I transferred because we didn't have places to live. And my mom was like, all right, we're about to get evicted here. We don't have the money here and we got to move here. Like, that's why I transferred, so I transferred every year. I went to a different middle school, different high school every year. And when you meet new people, you got to kind of build a rapport for them. It's not about where you're from. It's about where you're at. You know what I'm saying? So I can have this pride and this ego and say, man, I was at Pitt. We won a championship. You kids are terrible. or I can go there with open arms, show them some love, communicate with them, get to know where they're from. I let the kids talk to me first. What were the issues here? How can we fix things? What's going on? Like, just get to know them, just like build like genuine respect or a genuine relationship. And then we get into the plays and how we play the game and why we play the game. And then if I happen to yell at you or cuss at you or say something negative or challenge you, then you don't take it personal because okay, this guy's really spent time building a relationship with me and trying to get to know me, and he wants to see me get better. He wants to see me win. Like, I want these kids to understand when I say one good year changes your life, I'm talking about the perspective of me being in junior college and not having anything and sleeping in a locker room. And then the next year I'm at University of Tulsa and we're like the number one offense in the country and we're setting all these records and, then I'm on a billboard in the state of Oklahoma and, like, whoa, the year before that I was sleeping on a freaking locker room floor with my friend, so I really believe in that. Like, the one good year can change your life and it can happen at any program. It's not, it happened at Tulsa. When I went to Tulsa, they weren't like a perennial powerhouse, and we won, and we, took notice. And every coach on that staff, even the GA, Jake Spavital was a GA. Every coach on that staff became a head coach. So even with the coaches, I'm trying to tell the coaches, like, man, if we lock in, if we really do this right, if we pour everything into the kids, like, even one good year can change our life. Like, it's not like everybody in the building, it can change everybody's life in the building. You know how this is America. Everybody loves football, so
Amen.
If you have, you know what I mean? If you have a great football team, everybody notices you, you're noticed. And so these kids, when I'm saying one good year can change your life, I'm saying, like, man, like, if we really just don't forget about the past, forget about the future, if we just stay focused on right now, like the day to day, like, kids always laugh at me because my energy is the same every day. I walk in every day excited, loving the game, turned up, playing music, having a good time. Like, that's my personality every single day, because I know if we pour in and we're into it and we're all in every day, like, this can really change our lives. I've seen that happen in my own life. And I always tell kids, like, once you see a miracle happen, like, there's nobody on this earth that can convince me that you can't do something great. Like, I don't care if
look at me. Look at me.
I mean?
I'm sitting here talking to Coach Marion. I talked to Chan Gailey today.
Yeah.
I'm the low man on the totem pole. Nick, what you thinking?
Man, you got me fired up, man. I love that, man. The relationship component, man, you hit it right on the head, man. And having that infectious energy, man, you got to be the example for these kids now more than ever. So if you're bringing the energy, man, they just got to keep up with you.
No doubt. And I think, you always set the temperature in the room. If you come in there negative Nancy, sad, depressed, that's what the room is going to be like. If I come in there with juice and energy, even if the kids they're not used to it at first. They're like, and then if it's consistent, if it's genuine, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If it's not fake juice, anybody go in there and scream one time, you're looking at him like, the heck? I even have it broke down to the day. Like, if you ask, like, for example, when I coached the Pitt receivers, on Monday, we would measure everything that we did well or we did wrong and figure out what's the plan this week to make it better. On Tuesday, I would challenge and be all over you for every single thing. Like, I'm trying to challenge, like, that ain't good enough. Do it again. Make it perfect. Wednesday, I'm like, all right, you guys need to have that energy towards each other. Like, we need to, like, win Wednesday. Like, if it's not perfect, then it ain't good enough. Like, we need to make sure we're perfect for the game. On Thursday, I don't say a word. Like, the only thing I'm going to say on Thursday is, like, I just kind of just observe. Like, I can't, in the game, I don't speak. So I need to see guys communicating, talking to each other, and being ready for the game. On Friday, I'm getting the guys hyped up to play the game. So I'm like giving them motivational speeches. I'm positive. I'm like, let's go. You got this. I can't wait to see you make plays tomorrow. You're about to put on a show tomorrow. It's about to be, And then on Saturday, it's like I'm there just to make sure. Like, if I ever yelled at a kid on a Saturday, he is completely sideways from the plan. Like, he is, because that's game day. That's their show. Like, I'm not trying to even be in there, be involved in. I'm a cheerleader on that day. I'm a okay, here's a quick adjustment. This is what they did. They showed this on film, but this is what they're doing here. You see what I'm saying? And I think when guys see that consistent pattern, like, then that's where relationships become genuine. When you're a Jacqueline Hyde, a different guy, or you're, then kids are like, man, that dude, you know what I'm saying? Whereas I have kids all over all the time that either, like, for example, I wasn't coaching Xavier Worthy. I was just recruiting him and talking to him in high school. We built a great relationship. When the job came up at Texas, the first call he made, the first text he sent when they wanted to hire a new receiver coach was to me. Because I was genuine and the same person every single time he talked to me. It wasn't just I'm trying to see these kids do good in life, not just what they do in football. I've helped kids that didn't even play it down for me. I mean, didn't do anything that helped me advance, or, like, I know coaches who don't know players' names who don't play, like, I've helped the players who, you know what I'm saying? And I think that's what you have to be about. Like, when kids see that you're actually, when you go into one of our meetings, it starts off with music, because I think music connects people. I think people like to have a good time, and music is one thing that connects people, creates a kind of vibe and energy in the room. And it's not just all one genre of music. It's different types of music. And then you go into, we always try to do something that will trigger the player's heart, capture the soul, mind, body, like, it will capture them, as far as make them think, make them write something down and think, like, this will help you in life. You know what I mean? And then we get to the football plays and the correction and the film and the video. And then we go out on the field and we do it. So, those are the things that, I try to give guys. And, guys only want plays. You know how every coach is like, I do my own stuff already. I want to what's that cool play that you run, But those are the things that I think that help these kids really, do great things.
What are Nick? I want you to ask a question after I ask this, but, like, give us 3 things that you would ask your team that would touch their heart. 3 things that you would get them to write down.
What's your why? Why do you play the game? Okay. The next thing is, I always like to ask them, what's the worst thing that you've been through? Because oftentimes, if, like, okay, Troy and Nick, you're both on here, and I said, raise your hand if you had somebody in your family that had cancer.
Yeah.
Right? We probably all raised our hand. Raise your hand if you had an alcoholic in your family.
Yeah.
I think we all, we
I got 2 hands for that one.
You know what I mean? So we connect through that struggle. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I look at him and I go, like, oh, he's white, I'm black. Like, he's never been through anything I've been through. Like,
yeah.
We're more related than we, like, people forget that Facebook and social media made the world small, because you can see, like, people from all over the world are connected somehow. Like that 6 degrees of separation. And that's kind of, we ask the worst thing, and then we ask, like, the best thing, because I want guys to experience, if we have a kid who has never been on a boat, I want him to go on a boat. I want him to, live outside of his little circle of influence, like, okay, I didn't know that, the way that I grew up, I thought that was normal until I moved to California as a 17-year-old when I went to junior college. And I was like, oh, wow, this is a completely different life than what I thought was normal.
It's the allegory of the cave. I mean, it's Plato's allegory of the cave. You don't know until you get out of the cave. Nick, what are you thinking? Nick, congratulations on getting your doctorate, man.
Oh, doctor. Man, that's a blessing. Congrats.
That's awesome, man.
Dr. Nick. That's how there it is.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I appreciate that. It's I agree with your real life applications and relationships and provoking thought. I think not enough coaches do that. And the relationship piece, I'm glad you touched on it, because I heard it from a couple different people on your staff. We got to link up with Hunky Cooper, and obviously I play with Mr. Rozier on your staff as well, and we're really close. So here, I've been following you and a lot of stuff that you're doing. So my question to you is, on that relationship component, and in full transparency, and you may have already answered this, but what makes your style unique, or what bits and pieces along your journey did you take to make it more effective, with you now being an offensive coordinator and having more responsibility with that? Not much, I'm saying, completely different from you as a high school head coach. But what are some tools and techniques you're using now to help separate you and your relationship style outside of just the X's and O's?
Yeah, I think I just meet kids where they're at. I never try to talk over them or try to out like make them feel small. I try to make people feel big, like they could do something big, and dream big, believe big, and feel that kind of inside themselves. So, I've always had the ability to meet people where they're at, and then once I figure out where they're at, try to give them a plan to get where they want to go and push them past that limit. And I think that's the one thing that kind of separates me is I don't see kids and get like irritated by kids or think like, oh, he dresses this way or his hair's this way or, this, that, like that. None of that stuff bothers me. You know what I mean? Like I don't, like write people off based on their appearance or where they come from or their behavior patterns. I think you have to find out why a person is like that. And then it's your job to cultivate them into the person that they want to become or they need help on, fixing some things. And I think that's been the thing that's kind of made my leadership style unique is, people say that I'm close to the kids, but if you ask the kids, they'd be like, no, Coach Marion's on my ass. Like, he don't, like he's always, but people see that as me, like meeting them where they're at is like, oh, you're over friendly or you're a player's coach or whatever. But that's not what I'm after. I'm after making sure that I can drive and push them to where they want to go and not just look down on them because they're not where they're supposed to be at yet.
Man, like now that you're at UNLV, how did that all go down? I mean, you had the season at Texas. How did you get the call from Coach Odom? How did he know who you were? Go through that whole deal.
So Coach Odom, we had like a booster event not too long ago, a couple months ago, I think it is now. And
I forgot you beat UNLV when you were at Howard. Oh yeah, and there was a booster there that said we need to get this guy. Yeah, I'm answering the question.
No, the real story is so Coach, he came to one of my I think I was speaking at AFCA one year, might have been the year that I was at William & Mary or Howard, one of the two. And he sat in there and he was like, we've kind of stayed in contact ever since then. I shook his hand. And, when he got let go at Missouri and he went to Arkansas, we had, text back and forth a couple of times, DM'd on Twitter. And, when this opportunity came about, we had talked a little bit. But I was still kind of unsure at first, like obviously Texas, I love being at Texas.
Yeah.
And then, there's a couple other opportunities that were, about, so it was like, I don't know, and then, when the Petrino situation kind of happened there, with Coach going, in a different way, when he came here, Coach called me like, come on, let's, kind of make this happen. And, we talked it out and he just kind of asked me like, you're going to run that stuff that you ran and, put stress on the defense and, and we just kind of made it work from there. I think, the one thing I love about Coach Odom, he's from Oklahoma. And I think, going to University of Tulsa and being in Oklahoma, I think Oklahoma people are sold to the earth. I think they're, those are the best people I've kind of ever met, Oklahoma people. And
I gotta go there sometime, man.
Yeah. I mean,
that's the one that looks kind of like a gun.
I'm from Pittsburgh, like FU is hello in Pittsburgh. You know what I mean? Like that's like, that means you like a person. You know what I'm saying? So when I went to Tulsa and everybody's like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, I remember I went to Coach Malzahn and I'm like, what's wrong with these people are like talking to, like they always want to talk to you and stuff. Like I was kind of thrown off by that. So I just felt like, like he's a man of, he says something and it happens, like, and in this business, it's hard for that to happen, because of the business element, because people have pressure from boosters, different things. And, ultimately for him to give me an opportunity and a shot, like it's been a complete blessing being here in Vegas and, and learning a lot from him, how he runs the program. And he was in the SEC and he's been a head coach at an SEC program. And, you know what I'm saying? He's been a successful coordinator and just seeing how he moves and operates and how we run things. I'm grateful as I'll get out that I'm here.
Yeah. I mean, Now that you're at UNLV and you're the offensive coordinator, now I don't want you to talk too much about what you're going to do or anything like that, but like, what are you focusing on right now? I mean, are y'all in like workouts, and are you working? What do you work on right now? Like, what are you studying? What do you do on a daily basis right now? Is it camps?
Yeah, we got, the camp circuits rolling right now. The players are doing their own practice deals right now. We have a little quick workout with them each day. So really right now it's just we've been developing as a staff, getting together as a staff and making sure we're cohesive and speaking the same language. Have a great staff. Vance Vice, he was the offensive line coach at Virginia Tech.
Yeah, I remember him.
Cornell Ford, he was the running back coach at Missouri for a while. When Coach Odom was there, Dale Alexander, we worked together at Arizona State. So we kind of are speaking similar languages already. We were under Norvell there when Norvell was the OC. And then Coach Longshore, who played quarterback at Cal back in the day when Cal was rolling with Tedford. And, he's our tight end coach. So, and then all our support staff guys, Coach Merchant, Robbie, Coach Laws, Coach Shark. I mean, just trying to get everybody on the same page and making sure that, we're all going in the same direction, rowing the boat, going where we need to go and doing our deal and just getting the kids right. Like, we're just spending a lot of time with the kids. Like today I was game planning and working on some stuff for our first game. I walked by and I see the coaches eating lunch with the players. It's just that little stuff of just, things like that you think that's not a big deal, but it's really a big deal on how hard your guys play. I always talk about how you play without the ball determines how much you love your teammates. But for a coach's perspective, it's how hard can you get each individual member to play for the team? Like, how hard do your guys play? And if you're building a relationship with them and developing them and they feel like you're getting them better on the field and you're getting them better in the classroom, and then you're spending that little extra time with them, you're going to eat with them and you're being there with them, then they really go hard for you. So I think that's what we're really focused on right now is just developing our guys and then developing as a staff. So, when it's third down, when it's red zone, when it's fourth and short, we look at each other and we're all on the same page and we know what we're calling and we know what we're doing.
As far as recruiting goes, like Coach Garrett, he runs one of the best Twitter spaces around talking about recruiting for kids who are rising seniors. What should they focus on? I always say like grades, be a good kid, work hard. I mean, everybody's journey is different. Your journey was a lot different than someone else. You went to numerous different JUCOs and, like you said, sleeping on floors. So, for a parent or a kid that may be watching out there, I mean, what advice can you give them coming from a young coach and a guy who's been on every level and coached on every level?
Yeah, I think that the thing that people are really missing right now is that you have to have a good product. Like I see so many people thinking that you can skip like the process part of it and skip like the pain that comes with it and skip like you have to actually produce. You actually have to have a solid product. You actually have to show up at these camps and you have to look the part. You have to be physically in shape. You have to have great endurance. You have to be the kids who always win at the camps are the kids who can take more reps than anybody. They have endurance, right? Because they've been training hard. They've been running, they've been working, they've been lifting, they're in shape. So they can take multiple reps and they can play when it's one-on-one in a critical situation going against a better player or a player just the same as their technique, their effort, their talent can take over and they can make plays and show coaches like, damn, this guy's really a guy. Whereas if you're not in shape, you don't have confidence. So if you're not training hard, we can tell that you're not confident. You're not going to run a fast 40. I'm not going to do the 40, coach. I'm not going to do the shuttle, coach. I'm not going to do, like, for example, it's different when a guy goes to an NFL combine and he has 4 years of a body of work of making plays, production, running fast, passionate guy. And he doesn't run the 40 because maybe his hamstring's tight. And the coach goes like, I don't care about his 40. I mean, his tape has showed me that he's had multiple 1,000-yard seasons or something. When you're a high school kid, all conferences aren't created equal. So you might be all conference, all state, in a bad state that doesn't really, not a football state or not in a good conference. And you go to a camp and you go get somebody's all state in, 6A Texas ball. and you're all state in, somewhere that, the football's not
middle of
great.
nowhere.
You know what I mean? Or, for example, you go to a camp and you're a freaking dog and you're from a little single-A small school. And you go to a camp and now you got offered because you went against all the big dogs. But I think all that happens is it's your product. Like, are you an intelligent football player? Are your grades right? Are you in shape? Can you make plays consistently over and over again? Does your tape match the workout? So now that I see a kid who's off the chain, now when I look at some tape, does his tape match what I just saw with my own eyes? And I think, beauty's in the eye of the beholder too. I think a lot of kids give up on themselves because they went to 3 camps and they didn't get an offer. Well, just those schools were there that didn't like you. You got to be willing to say, all right, well, those schools didn't like me. I'm going to work a little bit harder and I'm going to go to this next camp and show these programs that what I got. And all you need is one school to like you out of the however many schools there is. You need one school to be like, I love that guy. That's my guy. Boom. That guy gives you a chance. And you see how it happens now. Once you have a good product, then it spreads like a wildfire, right? So it's the same thing as the one good year can change your life mentality. It's one offer can really change your life. But if you have really good product, the one offer turns into 20 offers. Now, the flip side of that is the kids who have all these offers and then they're not doing what they need to do once they get the offers. They're patting themselves on the back and they're not remembering the hunger it took, the work ethic it took to get the offer. So once you get the offer, you haven't made it yet. Like, oh, NIL. Oh, that's taxes, half, boom.
Yeah.
That's not generational wealth. That might help you for 6 months, a year, might put you in a better situation, help you out a little bit. But it's not to the point where you shouldn't be striving to make it to the professionals, to make it to be a professional athlete and create generational wealth for yourself. So that constant, I think you have to find guys. Like, my thing is always like, do you love football? Right?
John Gruden.
Like no one can ever question like if I love football or my work ethic, because I've went further and harder and tried and went to the worst program, like places nobody wanted to go. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what shows. I'm seeing kids like, how much do you love it? Like, are you willing to, like, okay, so what, you hate school, but you'll get a 3.0 or you'll get a 2.5 because you love football that much. You'll get the grades that you need. You might not love running in the heat or working out every day, but if you're a bigger lineman, but you love football, you want to play in the games, right? If you really love the game of football, you want to play in the game and make an impact, right? And then you want to consistently do that if you love it, and you love everything that comes with it.
Yeah, the good and the bad. I mean, Mike Spencer told me Mike was the head coach at St. Thomas Aquinas in between George Smith's 2 stints. But he said, Troy, how do you show somebody you love them? I was like, I don't know. He said, time and attention.
Yeah.
Time and attention. You've shown it your time and attention. Nick, what's on your heart for Coach? What you thinking?
No, man, I'm loving it all, man. I want him, if he has time, to stress the importance of receiving coaching at these camps, because I've seen some of these kids feel like you said, they're entitled and they feel they have it all, but they haven't really got to that point yet. But touch a little bit about stressing the importance of receiving coaching at these camps, or even if you're not physically coaching the kid, but you're observing the kid from your pair of eyes, you want to see how they receive the coaching that they're getting at these camps, applying it.
Yeah, I mean, I always like to just talk from my personal experience because I feel like everybody has different deals. One deal from my personal experience of a story of, I only went to one camp in high school. I went to the Penn State camp. That's the only camp that I ever went to. I went to one camp.
Good camp to go to.
And I remember the coaching staff noticed me and they said I was a good player. Now, I was nowhere where I needed to be academically. I had went to 4 different high schools already at the time. I was a junior in high school, and that was my 4th high school, 3rd or 4th high school.
Wow.
So academically, I wasn't where I needed to be. Weight-wise, I was like 145, 150. Like, I wasn't where I needed to be. My product of being a good player and having the talent was there, but, like, my packaging wasn't right. Like, all that stuff was not right yet. You know what I'm saying? And so that gave me the confidence, though, to go back home and get my product together by them just noticing me and telling me, like, man, you really did a good job at the camp. You know, a lot of kids take, you did a good job at the camp and I see you and I noticed you as like, well, they didn't offer me, so they don't like me. I'm going to stop working. I took that as, like, if Penn State coaches, and this is when Penn State was really, you know, like, Penn State's still really good. Coach Franklin's done a great job. But, you know what I'm saying? I took that as, like, man, I'm a dude. I kept up. They moved me up to the top players, and I'm a dude. Like, I can play with these dudes. I can go play Division I football. And so I had to start getting myself together. I took it personal that I'm not where I need to be and got myself together. And I think when you hear that information, even if it's not the information you want to hear, what did you take from it? What did it do to turn you into where you want to become? Because everybody has a different, you know, like in my brain and my heart is different from what my coach thought about me. You know, the talent's in the eye of the beholder. Like I always say, like one coach said I was D3. I had one coach tell me I was a D3 player. I had one coach tell me that I was a D2 player. I had one coach tell me that I was a D1 player. I didn't care what they said. In my mind, in my heart, like I'm D1 and I'm starting D1. Like that's what my mind told me. Nobody else could tell me different. And so every day what I was doing was when people were telling me I wasn't this or I wasn't that, I was working towards becoming what I wanted to be, the dream in my heart.
Amen. And then, like, I mean, this is bigger than football. Like, you take that after you get done playing it and you apply it to whatever, you know, you do in life. Like, you've done it with coaching, or someone else may do it with being a lawyer or a high school coach or a doctor, Dr. Garrett. So, like, I had Chan Gailey. Right. Yeah, I talked to Chan Gailey for an hour and a half. This guy was the head football coach of the Dallas Cowboys, the Buffalo Bills, Georgia Tech. And I told him this. And this is for the high school coach. Huh?
Did you ask him if he created quarters coverage?
I already know who created it. I mean, it's Jimmy John. It's the guys Jimmy Johnson and the Miami Dolphins and Wannstedt and them, I believe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did I ask somebody that once? I probably did. Like, high school coaches like want to go to college. College guys want to go to the pros, and pro guys want to go back to high school and just coach. And he told me that's true. Because he said the higher you go up, the more egos involved. I mean, I guess he coached for he coached for Jerry Jones. So, I mean, I guess that's a huge ego. But is that true? High school coaches want to go to college. College guys want to go to the pros, and pros want to go back to high school. And all these high school guys want to move up. What can you say to, you know, the guys out there that want to move up?
Yeah, I think anybody who truly like loves ball and – you know, you always want to see if you can be the best at it. So I just feel like, you know, it's like dominate whatever level you're at. So if you're a high school coach, you know, I know every high school coach wants to win the state championship. You know, that's like the pinnacle of it. Like, you know, you want to win a state championship. If you're a college coach, you want to win a national championship. The hard part about being a college coach is you got to get yourself in position to even where that can even occur. You know, because there's so many programs where if you went perfect, you're still not getting there. You know what I mean? Like you got to, you know, get yourself in a position to get there, right? You know, with the Power Five, the Group of Five, the way this system is kind of set up now, you know, and I think, you know, like the pros, you know, everybody there wants to win a Super Bowl, you know, like everybody in any profession, they want to be the best. They want to be considered the one if you've loved it and you put a lot of time and sacrifice into it. And I think that's completely true from the standpoint of, you know, I didn't think that I wanted to coach college football until I had my high school players saying, like, Coach, what are you doing here? I had guys in high school telling me, like, you should be coaching college.
Yeah, you should be here.
You know what I'm saying? And I remember, like, when college recruiters, like college coaches would come, and they'd be like, man, you're so detailed and organized, the way you run practice, you should be coaching college with me. And I'm thinking, like,
But that's that shot in the arm. That motivates you, that someone believes in you and sees something in you that you don't see in yourself. And it's just like the Penn State coach telling you that you're good. You know?
It kind of just sparked that. It sparked that, you know, like it got that fire going, like, okay, yeah, all right, I can do this. You know, like I can really do this. You know, and so you start to think like, And once your wheels start turning and you start to love the game and you start moving up, but like it is a lot of I always say, like, the reason why I try to stay young and stay at the kids, meet the kids where they're at, is because that forces me to drop my ego. That forces me to say all the accomplishments I ever had or whatever I did in the past ain't good enough if these kids don't get it. Like, every kid that I see in that weight room going hard and running hard on that field, I'm looking at them like, man, I want you to experience every great thing that this game has to offer because you've put in all the time, effort, and work into doing that. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm thinking about when I see in the kid run that sprint hard and really trying to beat that guy and really trying to, like, stay in the film room for 2 hours and study the game. It's just thinking back to, like, man, I want this kid to have 1,000-yard season. Or, when I was at the draft with Jordan, all I was thinking about was all the kids that put in all that work and they didn't get to that point, but I saw so many kids, over a 11, 12-year career of coaching football now, all those kids that put in that work and seeing the kid who actually put in that work and have it actually happen, now it's like, man, you know what I mean? It was just like the collection of all those, like myself included, like all the people who put in all that work and seeing him get his name called, and even us at the draft, his mom, his brother, his mom, and Jordan included, we're all pissed because, he was the third receiver drafted. And no disrespect to the other guys, but to me, Jordan was the guy, right?
Oh yeah, he's my guy.
And so we were all a little vexed about it, a little stressed out about it. But then, I gave him a hug and I'm like, Doc, we said first round and you're first round. Like, let's be humble. Let's go back to work and let's prove it. And he was like, yeah, you're right. Like, and you know what I mean? It kind of all got us back into the mindset of being humble and being hungry and, just not taking it for granted, that ego though can build up in you when you win those awards and you have accomplished great things and you kind of walk around like with that importance feeling. But really when it gets back down to it, like every year is a new year, that new calendar year starts. We're all undefeated right now. I'm speaking right now. I'm great right now. Like we haven't done anything yet. Have got a lot to prove. Got a chip on my, like I tell the kids to keep your chip in your pocket. Like got a lot to prove. We're hungry, and you got to prove it. It's all top until you get it done.
Amen. Nick, have you got anything else for Coach that you want to ask him?
No, I'm glad he has the expression of humility. I mean, you're not only talking it, you walked it. And I think that's important, especially in this profession in today's era of kids. And I think, it's not really shouldn't be an issue with these kids getting an overinflated ego. The way you break down your days, the way you said you broke down your days at Pitt and everywhere else. I'm almost certain that entire group, because of your transparency and the way you broke down your days, really probably don't have an overinflated ego by any means, just because of what you've created, that culture you created, and that standard and week in and week out of consistency. I don't see how that would be an issue with the guys you operate with, and including that UNLV group. So excited to see what you guys have going on, man. I know you guys have a lot of buzz brewing over there in Vegas, man. So I'm looking forward to it.
No doubt. Appreciate you, baby.
Thank you, Coach. I mean, I texted you today, man, and boom, you're on it, man.
I owed you one. I was like, all right, I'm gonna do it.
You're on it, man. You're the best, man. We love you, man. I'm your number one fan, man. I mean,
appreciate you, baby. Thank you,
got
man.
so many fans.
No doubt.
Yeah. So, Coach, good luck to you. Thank you for coming on. I'm gonna press end. We can sit here and chat for just a second. I know you probably got to go, Coach.
Yeah.